thought you were quitting or something. Just walked right out. I didn't know we had a little
executive
issue.
session.
No, this morning when the prime gov, no, when Frank
No, when
Barnes
Frank was
coming
trying to
up.
get his
Yeah.
presentation,
Oh,
she was gonna be his IT guy.
I thought, where's Amy going? She can't quit.
He said Amy.
Good afternoon. It is 2 o'clock, and I would like to call to order the July 20th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the July 6th meeting. Are there any questions or comments by the trustees? Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes. Next up is the consent docket. There are 12 items on the agenda. It can be taken as a single motion. Are there any questions or comments regarding about any item on the consent docket?
I had one question, item 3F on the consent docket. Can you kind of update me on where we're at on interconnectivity between Draper and Hefner and the timeline of events that are going to come in the future?
Yes, sir, Councilman. The Draper-Hefner Interconnect has 3 remaining segments and then 1 upgrade at the Overholser plant with some valving. Those segments should be designed and bid by the end of this year and construction completed in about 2 years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
But with each step that you've made to date, you have the ability to move more water to the northwest.
We do. After we disinfect that line and put it in service.
Okay.
But we will have total ability within the next 2 years.
Great.
Other questions on the consent docket? Hearing none, is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes 4-0. Next up is the concurrence docket. There are 5 items on the concurrence docket. A number of joint contracts with the City of Oklahoma City. Are there any questions or comments regarding the concurrence docket? And someone care to, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes 4-0. Next item is emergency contract. This is an emergency sanitary sewer repair on Northeast 10th Street. This will require 4 votes for approval. Are there any questions regarding the emergency contract? Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes. Items for individual consideration, we have none this afternoon. Are there any items from trustees? Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of items. First, and most importantly, tomorrow is a very special day for our chairman. It's his birthday, so happy birthday, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to give everyone an update on the arrears. The number of customers is decreased down to less than 100, and those customers are the ones that were most behind, $250 or above behind in their payments, down from 1,000 2 weeks ago. The dollar amount is a little less than $100,000, down from $700,000 2 weeks ago. The water wastewater is $90,000, down from $500,000. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have customers in arrears, but we took that layer that was most behind and took care of that one by either getting payments or getting them on a payment plan. So that was a pretty big accomplishment. The second thing that I would like to talk about is the annual pro forma. So this is the FY21 pro forma. And I will briefly summarize. So for water, the revenues exceeded our predictions by about $2 million. The expenses were lower than our target by $9.2 million. In wastewater, our revenues were lower than our target by $7.3 million, and that's primarily due to the winter average billing. So last year, because of the ice storm and because of the very, very cold winter, we didn't have a lot of folks watering, and so our winter average went down. And so our revenues have gone down accordingly. The expenses are lower than target by $3.1 million. In solid waste, we exceeded our target in revenue by about $750,000, and our expenses were down by $3.9 million. So in summary, the revenues were down about $4.5 million over our anticipated target, but our expenses were lowered by $16.2 million, so financially we're in pretty good shape. So I'd be happy to answer questions that you may have accordingly.
Thank you for that report. Any questions or comments by the trustees?
A very favorable report today. Thank you.
Well, we made a few extra dollars in some category and made a little less in others, and our expenses are low, but there are issues related to those lower expenses, and primarily that is our vacancies. Our vacancy rate is really high, and that's really not where I'd like to see us saving money, because our service level is suffering also because of that. But we're working diligently to fix that.
So do you want to make any comments on the lake surface, lake quantity?
Every
report?
lake is full.
That's,
So we're in good shape there. We have plenty of water to sell. Now, the good news is the weather forecast coming up next week is going to be in the upper 90s, so we ought to have plenty of resources to provide for people who want them.
Excellent. Yes, I don't believe I've ever seen a lake level report at the end of July looking like that before, ever. Yeah.
And a lot of luck.
All right, any other comments or questions for Mr. Browning? I have been advised that there are no citizens to be heard. Therefore, we are adjourned.